Hello, thank you for joining us today. We have a special edition of the Parks Alliance Read Along. Joining us in just a few minutes will be Judith Dumorney-McDaniel, the Executive Director of Teenagers in Charge. And we will be live. I'll be bringing my colleague Lula on in just a few seconds. And welcome. How are you today, Lula?
Hi, Steve. How are you? Happy Tuesday.
Tuesday.
For today's reading / engagement. It's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to talk about it in a little bit, but I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you want everyone to know today before we bring our guest on?
Yes. So quickly, hello everyone. Welcome to our 4th week of Read Along, and we're experimenting with some of the different creative way of sharing stories. And we're super excited to have our today author that we're going to bring on in a little bit. But before we do, if you can go to our website, and when you go to our homepage, which is www.philaparks.org, there you go. You go to our homepage and you'll see a petition that will take less than a minute to sign. The petition is just asking for our community to just advocate for more funding for our parks and recreation through our city council members. So as you can see it, the first thing you'll see is sign the petition. It takes less than a minute to do. And if you could just support us by asking for more money for our funds and recreation, for parks and recreation, that would be awesome.
Great. We also, as always, we want to know where you're watching. If you're watching in Philadelphia, let us know what neighborhood. And if you're watching outside of Philadelphia, let us know what town or neighborhood or whatever else you want us to know about that. You can certainly give us questions for the guests. We also want you to share. Now's a great time to share this. You can share anytime during the broadcast. But if you click that share button, then people will know you're watching. And even if they're busy now, they can come back and watch later. And what you can also do is you can tag friends in the broadcast. If you know friends, family, people who you think would find this interesting, if you tag them type in that @ character and start typing their name, and their name will pop up if you're following them, and then you can tag their name, and they can either pop in now or they'll get a notification later on today. They'll see that notification later on, and then they'll be able to join too. That's a great way to be able to share this, as well as with sharing using that share button.
Oh, we already have a lot of people chiming in. We're so excited. Welcome, everyone. And then the second thing is our YouTube page. We started with having just 3, according to Steve, and now we are like 40-something subscribers.
47, I think.
47. So woohoo! We're gonna put the link in the comment section. So if you can just subscribe to our page, so we can grow to 100 subscribers, then we'll be able to cut short our link, right?
Well, yeah, we'll show you what it looks like now. We've shown this. People who watched this before have seen this. This is the link. Obviously, we can't remember this link. So now you can just go to YouTube and search for Philadelphia Parks Alliance. Look for our green hand logo, and you'll find us. But we'd like to be able to tell you, go to youtube.com/Philadelphia Parks Alliance. Now, nobody steal that now. But we have to get to 100 subscribers for that. So it's a telethon. But really, we do need 53 more people to subscribe to that, and then we'll be able to apply to YouTube to change. It'll probably take a few days, and then they'll be able to have the new one that we can share with you. That'll be a lot easier to remember. Like our other ones, like I'll put our other social media here, and those ones are fairly easy to remember. They're slightly different. Phila Parks Alliance on Instagram, PH Parks Alliance on Twitter, because Twitter doesn't allow as long names.
Yes. So should we bring our?
Let's want to bring our intern Jack on this. Yes. Helping me out. So we're getting expert production help today.
Everyone. Hello.
Jack's going to help us out in the StreamYard production studio here, and he's also going to help out by being in the Facebook comments to be able to listen to what people are doing there, to share some links and check out things there. So if you see someone commenting as Philadelphia Parks Alliance in Facebook, that's Jack who's helping out. And also, Jack, if you go to the Philadelphia Parks Alliance on Facebook, which if you're watching on Facebook, as most of you are, you already know how to get there. Wait till the end. But after you go there, if you go to that page, you'll see the top post that we have is a story from Jack and a nice picture of Jack in the great outdoors taken a while ago. And at least he's there, but that's and we've asked all 3 of our interns to tell us the stories of how they're dealing with all these changes that have come up there. And they've been very resilient, as well as just very, very helpful for us to be able to keep us going. So we're thrilled to have 3 brilliant interns. One of them here. Our other 2 are Alexis and Sarah, who also have their posts up there with their pictures, as well as how they're working with this. So we're grateful to have them on our team.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for joining us.
Yes, we're grateful to have you, Jack. And Sarah and Alexis. We love having them, and if you want to learn more about them, just read through their brief just their coping mechanism of how they've been going through just coping with the pandemic. So, which actually brings us to today's conversation, which is perfect. I think our Arthur talked to us about just how to deal with so many different things that we are going through, especially for teenagers. So if you have a teenager in the household, please invite them to join us for the conversation. We're going to have a monologue that we're going to play, and then we're going to have the Arthur to join us, Judith, to read chapter 16, and then have a discussion. Yep.
Yeah, we're going to welcome our author in here in just a second to introduce the video, and then Jack and I will pop off pretty quickly after that. So you two have a chance to chat privately, not chat privately, but chat together and do your interview. So let's bring Judith on now. Hello.
Hi, Judith. How are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
And I'm going to pop up some of the comments too. So Jack and I are going to pop back into the studio, as it were, and we'll share some of the comments. So those will be underneath you. You may see those coming up. You can. We'll at the end we'll come back to those too, but we want to make sure that everyone who's sharing all this great things or that we're putting those up there as well. So Jack and I are going to say goodbye for now, and we'll see you later on. Thanks.
Thank you so much for all your help.
Thank you so much. Okay, welcome, Judith. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you.
You wear so many different hats. And we're excited to have you. Like I said earlier, this is a little different read along than we have done in a previous 3 weeks. Well, I'm excited to bring Judith in to this read along because we're going to have a conversation about just the topic of depression and what that looks like with teenagers and the things some of the teenagers are currently going through. And as a parent or caretaker, like how to start having those conversations with them, especially our current state of just how we're living life right now with being shut down. Not a lot of people know how to handle that. I think things get to be a bit much. So before I start giving it away, we want to get to know you and your background and just how you even came about just writing your book and so if you could tell us about who you are and your background as an executive director for your own nonprofit organization and just a little bit more about your book.
Sure. Thank you for having me. My name is Judith Dumorney-McDaniel, and I am a wife. I am a mother. I am a serial entrepreneur in the evening and an auditor during the day. And Teenagers in Charge is near and dear to my heart. We're talking about 25 years that the organization has been in existence. May of next month, May 6th to be exact. And we will be celebrating 25 years. It's a nonprofit organization for and about teens whose mission is to help teens build their self-esteem, heighten their culture and community awareness, but most importantly, teach them how to take charge of their lives. It's very youth-driven. And so we've been doing this for quite some time. And the 3 areas that we normally focus on is pretty much helping our teens to understand the importance of community service. We also make sure that we allow our teens to have a voice. And so we have what we call solutions theater. And we also have a mentoring program. So those are the 3 areas that we've been focusing on. And of course now, because times have changed, we actually had to learn how to change with the times. So we pretty much are mobile. We go to where the teens are. So pretty much what that looks like is we're in the schools now. We have partnered with the PAL Center. We partner with churches. So pretty much where the teens, it's because they actually have a voice. We make sure that we are helping them to execute what it is that they are interested in. In terms of how we got started and how the book basically was born is I turned 50 2 years ago, and I just wanted to do something different in terms of this next chapter of my life. And I just kind of went into solitude and prayer and fasting, just asking God to give me something that would have an impact, something that would change the world. And I kept hearing him whispering to me that he wanted me to write a book. Now, writing a book is something that I definitely was interested in doing, but did not realize that I was going to do it this soon. But what I can tell you is that sitting still and listening to the creator, God just really gave me the vision to write a book about something that you know, something that you're passionate about, and more importantly, something that's going to have impact and something that's going to change the world. So, Teenagers in Charge: A Blueprint to Unmasking the Greatness in You is born because it is something that was needed so that we can help the teens speak to other people. In the past and current experiences in working with young people, their voices somewhat are muted and they don't have an opportunity to speak.
Right.
And in my line of work, in my line of work and working with them over the past 25 years, one of the things that they often complain about is that no one is listening to them. Hence, some of the behaviors that we may see, hence some of the strong personalities that we see. Oftentimes, we, just kind of misinterpret what is going on when in fact it is basically saying, hey, I'm here, I need you to listen to me. You can hear me, but you're not listening to me. And so what we found is that, and when I started doing the research in terms of what are some things that young people are struggling with, 25 years ago and then now, it's pretty much still the same. And that is teens are dealing with homelessness. 1.6 million teenagers are homeless in the United States alone.
Yeah.
Then we have teen suicide, we have teen depression, we have teen sexuality, we have bullying, but now we have cyberbullying. We have children or teens with defiant behaviors, and we also have some who have issues with drinking and smoking. Those are facts. Those are issues that our teens have been dealing with for a long time. And so why not share real stories from teens who basically want to share about like what's going on. But although these issues may be sad and they are something that we may not want to deal with, the reality of the situation is they are real, and as adults we can actually help them. And so that's what this book is about. It is about helping our young people. I am an advocate for young people. People that know me know that I'm an advocate. I'm passionate when I speak about teenagers, and I love them and I want to see them succeed. I want them to get the help that they need. And it is my prayer that this book, which I have already received lots of feedback, that this book has changed lives. I mean, it's a conversation piece for parents, for coaches, for peers, for anyone who work with young people. This is a great opportunity for them to know what some of the signs are that I just mentioned of the issues. So,
well,
I'm excited.
I'm excited too, because I do agree with you. This book really does apply to not just parents and caretakers, but like you mentioned, the mentors and the coaches that we have, and even just a conversation starter. And I think this just gives you an insight of what teens are going through.
Yes.
So before we give it away, and we're going to have a further discussion at the end, if you want to introduce the video that we're going to watch, the monologue we're going to watch before you come back again. So,
So a little bit about this. What we're going to see in a few minutes is taken from one of my chapters in the book. And if you don't have the book, we're going to provide the link so that you can have it. But this chapter is entitled "Depression Don't Live Here Anymore." And it features a teenager who is trying to have a conversation about it. Let me just kind of say that because I don't want to give it away. But then after you watch it, I want them to be able to just kind of, we could just have a discussion. The young lady who is featured in this monologue, her name is Amajae Hardy-Jones, and I want to give credit also to my dear friends, Diane Mapp, who it has a nonprofit organization called Note to Queen, and Khalik Hayes, and his nonprofit organization is called Child Lost Foundation. And together, with Teenagers in Charge, we were able to put this piece together. So
amazing.
enjoy.
So we're going to play it. Stay around. We're going to come back again, and we're going to have a discussion about it. So enjoy
Okay,
the video.
great.
And I'm a 14-year-old freshman. You know, it all really started when I was in middle school. And for some reason, I would always get sad during the winter months. And I always felt pressured with, you know, keeping my grades up, since I was always on honor roll. To everyone, including my peers, I was so-called everything. But on the inside, I was a train wreck. I was hurting. I even had the self-inflicted wounds to prove it. The pressure of being perfect was just unbearable. I barely went out on weekends, yet I always went to church on Sundays. I didn't want to hang out with my friends, and I hated parties of any kind. That's when I started to realize that I may have teenage depression. Now that I look back, I wish that I could have enjoyed life when I was in middle school. You know, cherish the little moments. I remember my mom would always say, you know, what's wrong, baby girl? Why are you acting like this? And it would take everything within me to just fight back the tears and say, Mom, I'm all right. I'm all right. For so long, I tried to hide my teenage depression. Until one day I noticed a girl with the same self-inflicted wounds I had on my arm. She had it as well. She went to my church and her name is Delilah. One day her and her family came over and I finally had the guts to ask her, what were those cuts on your arm? And you know what she said to me? She said that she tried to commit suicide as well. Yet she got help. It was crazy because within that moment, I felt comfortable to tell her everything. A complete stranger that I barely knew, a girl who went to my church. So I finally came out and told her that I also tried to harm myself and commit suicide. She spent the night, and we stayed up till midnight talking about our problems. And all of a sudden, I wasn't alone anymore. Little did I know that throughout that night, she told me the next morning that she was praying for me. Someone actually cared. Someone cared enough to actually pray for me. She made me promise to go to the doctors. And I said yes on the outside, but inside, I didn't care. I said whatever. Did you know that later on that evening, me and my mom had another argument about academics and sports, which is one of my pressure points. She just kept pushing me and pushing me to the point I couldn't do it anymore. Mom, I can't do it. Mom, I'm harming myself. I can't. I cried and cried and landed in a fetal position. I knew that I finally had my mom's attention. She was shocked. It was that moment when she finally told me that we were going to go find a doctor. and/or a therapist. Now that I finally got her attention and I started going to my therapist regularly, I saw an immediate change within my behavior, my attitude towards people, and within myself. You know the phrase, teamwork makes the dream work? My team was my family. And they were able to get me through one of the hardest challenges in my life. It was within that moment that I finally knew that depression did not live within me anymore. It did not live within me anymore. Thank you.
Wow, that was very powerful. That was very powerful. You mentioned earlier that a lot of times when teens are going through the things that are going through, there's that generational gap that we have with adults and their parents or caretakers, that they always feel like there's no one really listening to them and they have to suffer in silence. And you could see that in Allison in this situation where she's screaming for help, but it seems like no one is listening to her. And a lot of times I know that we don't really take our kids seriously because we think they don't have the responsibilities like adults do, or they shouldn't be stressed like we should be stressed because, you know, our lives are different. But in this situation, you can see she's been asking for help and no one is listening. It's from the pressure of society, from the pressure of school, and just teenager things that you go through. But she was able to get the help that she did. And just walk us through her story of what she could have done different, maybe to seek the attention, seek the help that she needed early on, so things didn't get as bad as it did.
So again, and let me also put a disclaimer. All names were changed
Right.
because we wanted to make sure that no one was able to be identified. But what I can say is that I pretty much had firsthand experience with regard to what that looks like with my daughter in terms of her being in middle school, and just sharing with me a number of young of her peers who pretty much were going through some situations in terms of them being depressed. And what we noticed was that during the winter months, a number of the teenagers were very saddened because number one, the pressure of standardized testing was an issue. And as a parent, you only know what you know. And so if you know, feel as though that's something that's important, you pretty much are going to kind of go against whatever it is that they're feeling or whatever they're thinking.
Right.
And so so standardized testing is an issue in terms of why some of these children are feeling pressure. Peer acceptance is another issue, and we notice that that causes these kind of depressions. The fact that sometimes their parents may not want to hear what it is that they need to say, and pretty much want to, you know, they just want the work done, or they want the job done, whether it's your chores that you got to do at home, or whether it's the schoolwork at school, or whether it's participating in a sport or participating in church activities. All of these things will cause a child to have a breaking point. And if, as a parent, if we're not open and receptive to listening, hearing them is one thing, but listening to them is another. It is going to cause some problems. And so what I would, you know, always say, I mean, like with my daughter, even though she may not want to talk to me, or she may not want to talk to her dad, I would always say to her, I want to put you in position so that you can talk to someone. So what
Right.
does that mean and what does that look like? So we want to make sure that we have a mentor. We want to make sure that we have a trusted adult if you don't have a mentor. We want to make sure that we talk about therapy, because I think that's extremely important. It's in our community, it's like so taboo. And we don't want to say, oh, maybe you want to go see a therapist, but it's really about the way in which we have the conversation. You want to be creative in how you have the conversation with your children. It
Right.
could be that, and let me also preface it by saying everybody's household does not look the same.
Right.
So just because my daughter has an opportunity to have a conversation with me and her or her dad and or other people that she can trust, everybody's household looks different. Some children are struggling just to make ends meet. They're struggling just to get a meal. They're struggling just, to make sure that they're able to take a shower. I mean, so everybody's situation doesn't look the same, and that too causes depression, right? And
Yeah.
so a teacher who has a classroom that's filled with a number of different children, I honestly don't know if that teacher can even assist. And then the counselor is overwhelmed with the number of children that he or she has to see, so that too it can be a problem. But what I always say to the teens is that you have to try to find at least one person that is
Right.
going to have your best interests.
Right.
And then we can kind of go from there.
Right. And trust plays such a huge role in this situation because a lot of times, even if you have family that are there to encourage you and listen to you, you have to have the trust. And the teens or our youth really have to trust someone to even open up. Or
Yes.
they've attempted to open up maybe once or twice and that message wasn't received, so they usually shut down. And depression looks different among everyone, right?
Yes.
Some of us might be sleeping, some of us might be
Mhm.
active, like avoiding things to deal with. So paying attention to those little details of where you're what the youth is going through so you can better assist them. And then also knowing, I think you said something key earlier, knowing sometimes you can get outside help. It doesn't always have to be you, and that is
That's
okay.
correct. That is
Right.
correct. And so what I also recommend is that like I always, and I'll just use my daughter as an example. I always say to her, you want to make sure that you are hanging with people that have your best interests.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Now, I can't
Mm-hmm.
choose your friends for you.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be able to choose them for yourself. And while I may be able to model and teach what that looks like, another person's household is not able to do that because they may be the most positive person in their household,
Right.
right? And
Right.
so, but again, what I always say is try to find a trusted young adult that you are interested to be able to have a conversation with. But as a parent, I can speak from a parent perspective. It is important for us to have creative conversations with our young people. So what does that mean? What does that look like? When we're in a car, we can have a conversation. If we're, going out and, we're shopping, that's a conversation. Not be afraid to basically open up with various topics,
Yeah.
because I think that's important. Like when you're playing a game, it just can be very creative. I also want to make sure that we learn how to listen to our children. And it's okay for you as a parent to say, what do you think about me as a parent?
Right.
And guess what? If they tell you the truth, you have to be okay with listening to whatever that truth looks like. I mean, seriously, because I think that we as parents, we think that we're right all the time, and we're not right all the time. And I always say to my daughter, if I'm wrong or if I said something to you that offended you, I need you to check me.
Right.
Because and if I do something where I need to apologize, I need you to check me.
Exactly. And
And be okay with that.
I agree. So please ask questions as well. So we're not having this discussion by ourselves because I see a lot of people are engaging with us. So
Okay.
please ask any questions that you have to Judith so we can get more out of this conversation. I do agree about asking questions, but also listening. I think a lot of times we do listening to respond versus listening to understand. And I
Yes.
think that's so important, especially with our kids. And they need to see you also as a human being, not the parent of a superhero to them. And I think sharing your personal stories, even as a teenager, to your children is key in building that relationship and bond with them. I think when they see you the same level as themselves, they know that they're not going through this by themselves alone as well.
Right. And there's a difference between being a parent and being your girlfriend. I make it clear I'm not your girlfriend,
Right.
but I want to be a cool mom that basically listens to whatever your challenges are and be able to tell you the truth. And like I always joke around with my daughter, I said, listen, your mama gonna tell you the truth. I'm going to tell you the truth. Somebody else might not tell you the truth, but at least you heard it from me
Right.
first. You may
Right.
not like what it looks like,
Right.
but at the end of the day, we want to make sure that, and you know what else too, um, just not being afraid to say, listen, I don't know what you're going through right now, but how would you like to go to a therapist? Let's get a paid friend. It's okay. Like I think that we need to start having the conversation with our children that it is okay to have the conversation. And with COVID-19, and that was one of the reasons why I wanted to share this particular video. Our teens are going through a depression right now. And we need to understand what that looks like. We need to understand well, one, be empathetic that they are going through it. Like my daughter is a senior. There's no prom. There's no graduation. Right. All of the senior trips were canceled. Right. This is going on in my household. It's going on around the world. And this is a real challenge for them. And so I need to be empathetic to that. I need to understand that there may be a day or two where she doesn't feel like getting up. And as parents, I have to check that to make sure, like, hey, you know what? You slept all day today. Like, let's kind of get up and make
Right.
sure that we do what we need to do.
Right. We do have one question. Says, how do you get a preteen/teen to open up to his therapist appointments?
So what I'm going to say is that's the therapist's job. The therapist's job is going to make sure that he or she opens up. But what you can do as a parent, you can actually share like some of the issues and concerns with the therapist that you've had. And then that therapist can then share her tactics in terms of how he or she is going to get your child to speak. And then the other thing is you want to try to make sure that your therapist looks like your child, because sometimes your children are more receptive to opening up with a therapist that looks like them. And I'm not afraid to say that.
Yeah. And then we have you had teens who have wanted to hurt themselves, and have you helped them as a mentor?
Yes, I have
Thank you,
had
Karen.
I have had a number of teens who have tried to hurt themselves, and pretty much what I have done is I always have a therapist who is a friend, who is able to help me to guide that individual, and then I also I try, if I do match that person up with a mentor, I'm not that one to say, okay, this is a good fit for them, because getting help first is the most important thing. And then we lead into finding a trusted young adult that can basically work with that young person, because sometimes mentors are afraid to kind of deal with young people that may have those kind of challenges. So what I usually do is I refer parents to group mentoring, like Girls Inc., Big Brothers Big Sisters, have going to a PAL center, like somewhere where they're able to get like some positivity, so that they can look at other young people that are doing something positive, so that
Right.
they are thinking more highly of themselves. They're able to identify their self-worth.
Right. So there are two questions. Oh, here we go. Hi, it says, hello, everyone. Thank you for your wealth of information. How could we bring this program to other communities? That's a great question.
So basically, if that person, she could get in touch with me. We're going to leave information on Teenagers in Charge and how we can work with other people, because that's basically what we're looking to do. And we are very interested in serving our young people throughout the world, so that they are able to know that we are here for them. We're here to listen, but more importantly, we want to guide them in such a way where they are able to understand how important they are. Like, we value young people, we value you, and we have to, as adults, have to be understanding that the way that teens looked in the 70s and 80s and 90s, they look different now, right? And
Right.
so it's okay if their style of dress has changed, the way, the kind of music that they listen to have changed. I mean, we have to learn how to embrace it, because you can use it as a conversational piece.
Right.
So I
Right.
think it's important.
There is
You
one
have to,
question.
we have to.
Oh, no, go ahead. Finish your thoughts.
No, I was just going to just say that it's just important that we have to listen to them. And especially now more than anything, we're going to see that the depression and suicide rate is going to go up as a result of COVID. And so we want to make sure that we're cognizant of that. And one of the websites that I usually I trust is the National Institute of Mental Health. If
Actually, hold that thought, because this that might answer this question. It says, what if a
Okay,
parent does not have their resources to seek counseling
or
from?
what if a parent? So I would just say that that parent, I would direct that parent to the National Institute of Mental Health website. And if
Mhm.
you go onto that website, it allows you to know all of the different areas of the mental health that young people are going through, like suicide, depression, drinking, like all of the ones that I had mentioned earlier, which I can mention again. The top, some of the top issues that young people go through are homelessness, teen suicide, depression, teen sexuality, bullying, cyberbullying, defiant behaviors, drinking, and smoking. And so, if you go onto the National Institute of Mental Health, you will be able to get resources, you will be able to get help. It will be able to provide you with a link of all of the different therapists that are available in your area. You also are able to take advantage of getting a description of what are the signs, what do they look like, and what you are able to do. Like, that is a very reputable website, and it's national. So it, again, it's called the National Institute of Mental Health. And then
Hopefully, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, and then I was just going to say, I think that we have to learn how to be comfortable with trying to get help for our children, in terms of getting a therapist that looks like them, and really allowing your children to take advantage of that, because it is extremely important that our young people know they know that there's help out there for them.
Right.
And let me also say this. I think also, as parents, let's not turn our nose up. Let's not turn our nose up if your child is walking around and he or she is depressed. I mean, we use the word, you know you have an attitude. I know, like, I use that word a lot. Well, what's wrong with you? You act like you have an attitude. And I have to change my words. Like, we have to change our words. We have to change the way in which we have conversation with our children. Like, like I always say I also teach parenting classes, and I would say to the parents all the time, if you're at work and your boss talks to you in such a way that's demeaning, I said, would you turn around and would you do what he or she is asking you to do? And they would say, no. I would turn around and I would go off. And I said, okay, well, I said, I want you to pretend like your child is one of your employees. And I said, and you're the CEO of your household. So you just want to make sure, like, don't talk to them. Don't down talk to your child. Like, have a decent conversation with your children. Like, you start having conversations with them that and they see it as demeaning. They see that that their self-esteem is basically not worth anything. They don't know their self-worth. If you are speaking to them in a very mean tone, you're not going to get positive results. Nobody does.
That's such a great perspective to have. That was a great example to give. Something so simple, but I was like, oh, that makes sense. We have one question. We have several questions, actually. There was a question about stigma. How do you break the stigma around therapy? Yes.
How do you break the?
What are ways to eat the negative stigma that's associated with therapy?
So again, I think that having conversations like this is one. One of the other things that I think one way that we can do it is if people are not afraid to say, and I can use myself as an example. There were times in my life where I was depressed and I didn't know what to do, and I actually sought therapy. And so with that, I was able to say, like, wow, after I went to therapy, I mean, for a number of different challenges, not just one thing, I have had the opportunity to tell you how I was able to benefit from therapy. And as a result of me stating in my household how therapy helped me, I was able to say to my daughter, you may want to see a therapist. You may want to, look into this. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. And then also, another way of breaking the stigma is just having different forums. I think there's like a number of different therapists that who are friends of mine. Dr. Tina Scott, she's really good. Not Dr. I'm sorry, Lynette Medley with No More Secrets. She too is a therapist. I have Ian, Kali. There's like a number. I mean, I'm just naming these three because they're off the top of my head. But when we're able to actually, get in front of them, and then these are professionals that are telling you that, listen, here are some signs. And if you need to go and speak to someone, I'm here. And if you don't want to speak to me, here is a list of other people. We have to have the conversation. That's how we break the stigma.
I completely agree. And I think this will tie to the last question is, how do you get the conversation started with the young person? I think that question is going to come up a couple of times. There are a lot of parents that care, and caretakers and that care, want to help, but don't necessarily know how to start the conversation. And I know you touched up on this earlier, but if you could talk.
So again, that's a great question, Sharon. I think that we're forgetting to ask our young people, what can we do to support them? A simple question. How can I support you? I noticed that you are sleeping quite frequently during this time. Is everything okay? How can I help you? And something as simple as that it will go a long way, because it will allow that person, it may, not guaranteed, it's a 50-50, but it also depends. Everything is going to depend upon what in the kind of conversation or kind of relationship, that you have with that young person. And then the part two to that is, if you really care and you know that your child doesn't have a really good relationship with you, but your child has a good relationship with somebody else that you know, then and you trust, then
Mhm.
get that person to talk to your child.
Yes, that's a great advice.
Hmm. Hmm.
If you have questions, please feel free, for those of you who just joined us, to write them down in the comment section and we'll share it. If you just joined us, welcome. We are having a discussion about just conversations when it comes to teenagers and preteens and depression and what that looks like in today's age. We're super excited to have Judith, who has over 20 years of experience just supporting young people and having youth development, to give us insight about how we can just have a basic conversation with our teens, how to get the conversation started and build that trust, but also look into different resources that are available to us if we are unable to help, which is okay.
Hmm. Yeah.
So
So,
if you can just tell us maybe what are some like few steps parents and caretakers and mentors can take to really kind of initiate just those conversation starters. I know we talked about that a little bit,
hmm,
but maybe like some advice or tips you can give
hmm.
to our viewers that they can really take home and implement within their household like today.
Okay. So one, I do think that as parents, we have to be knowledgeable in the subject matter. So
Mhm.
starting out with yourself as a parent and getting to know what some of the signs are going to be key. So again, I would direct them to the National Institute of Mental Health. That is an excellent website. If you, as a parent, know of a therapist, I would have a conversation with that therapist or a social worker that can provide you with some additional information. I would definitely allow that person to assist you in providing you with, just resources and brochures that you may not have, and then you could take advantage of that. Um, Listen to your child. Listen to your child. Listen to your child. You know, if you and your child have a bad relationship, your child is never going to be able to open up to you, and that's going to push your child even further. But then on the flip side, let me also say this, because the young lady in the monologue, she her issue, I mean, now mind you, she was a straight A student. She did really well,
Mhm.
and as parents, we want our children to do well academically.
Right.
So there's a lot of pressures that come with that,
Right.
and we're basically saying, well, we want you to, succeed. And granted, yeah, I want you to get good grades. I don't want you to fail. But as a parent, if we're putting like a lot of pressure on our children, and then there's a lot of other outside pressures. This one young lady, I mean, she was just really fed up. And she was a scholar athlete.
Mhm.
She had, really done well, and pretty much doing everything that she needed to do. But yet, and still, in some cultural traditions, academically, it is expected for
Yeah.
that child to do well, regardless of what I'm saying and you're saying. And so, as parents, I think that we just need to be a little bit more sensitive to. Um, we just need to be a little bit more sensitive. Let me just kind of say that. I mean, not really understanding. Um, the pressures and the shoes that our young people walk in. I just really think that we have to be, because we're key. We're the key to success, and we are the ones that are going to help our young people to really make a way for themselves.
Mhm.
And parenting. It starts at home. And as parents, we have to model and teach what it is that we want. And therefore, it is extremely, extremely important that we learn how to listen to our children. We learn how to be a little we could be firm, but be also flexible. I think that's extremely important.
Right.
And if we're able to do that, we can listen to them, not be afraid to tell them, ask them, like I know with my daughter, I just say to her, like, especially with everything that's going on now, and I say, Jayla, how can I support you?
Mm-hmm.
What can I do to support you? And then, in fact, one of the other things that I did was I gave her, like, even with school, that's another thing. Like with school, every child may not be ready to go to college. Every child may not want to go to college. Some children may want to take a gap year, and they may want to say, you know what, I am tired of school. I just want to take a break. And as parents, we have to be able to say, you know what, okay, I want to support you, but come up with a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Together, you can come up with a plan.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly, we don't want you to lounge around all day and do absolutely nothing. That is not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that as a parent, we have to have a conversation with our young people. Ask them, what do they think? Now, if they basically come up with nothing and they can't come up with a solution, then that's where together you two, or however many children there are, think about how you can support them and ask for help. Parents, ask for help. You
Mm-hmm.
don't know the answers to everything. I don't know the answers to everything. But somebody knows the answer to what it is that you're asking.
Yes.
Somebody can help you. Always know that somebody can help you, and there's always an answer to your question.
So there is a question regarding what resources are available in the school systems in your area. I know if you go to like the school district's website, there are a lot of resources about bullying, parents help, how to voice your concern, and then also the city website also has different resources within your own city. So that's another place to check in. Judith, you can add to it as well. There are so many amazing resources that they could reach out to.
Yeah, and again, you can actually listen. Anything that we want now, we can Google it, and you just put down the information. But definitely start with, your different city or state. There are different resources. Now, some people do say, well, they don't have quite this type of resources that you may have, and that may be true, but just know that you have to start somewhere. And more importantly, you have to be able to ask your young person what it is that he or she wants. How can we support them? And then give them like some samples of what that may look like. So, for example, a child that, particularly now, we don't really know what the future holds for our young people who are graduating this year.
Right.
And so, right? And so it may be that your child has to go online, but maybe online education is not for your child. So as a parent, you need to know that, because it's not about your dream, it's your child's dream. We've had our chance. Now this is your child's chance. And yes, we don't want them to make the same mistakes that they made, but how are they going to be able to succeed if they don't fail?
Wow, that was deep. Yeah. We have one.
Well, thank you so much. That was fantastic. We've had more engagement today than we've ever had on anyone before. In fact, we also had tons of people watching on YouTube and commenting too.
Oh,
never
really?
had before. So that's because you told your people about that. We'd love to have you two as a place for the archive, but we had great engagement through there and great questions in YouTube, and we also have we have your social media at the bottom, and we've shared your website there too, so we can anyone has any additional questions, they know how you reach you there. And this has just been absolutely the most engaged audience we've had so far, and on Facebook as well, not to mention the YouTube questions we had. We're really excited that we were able to see all those questions coming in and sharing those, and And you can always go back to the Facebook. And if you want to respond directly to any of those people too,
absolutely,
here,
sure.
We do still have questions in the comment section. Please feel free to go and respond to them. I can stay on this live stream and have a conversation with you for hours. You are a wealth of so many information, and I think it shows with the amount of engagement that we are getting in our comment section. Judith, even though we're going to end the session soon, this conversation does not have to end today.
That's right. That's right. So the two things that I want to be able to share before we exit is the information on two things. One, I have a program called Make Literacy Dope. And Make Literacy Dope is basically bringing different authors together so that we can have a platform and be able to share our books and share our other opportunities for them so that we can have a voice, similar to how I created Teenagers in Charge. So this is a platform for authors so that we could come together and basically share ideas. And so we're going to be, you're going to hear more about that, because we normally have something 3 times a year. The other most important is we're going to be having a casting call because Teenagers in Charge is actually going to be a play. So we are actually going to be doing a casting call similar to Amajae and another gentleman named Shahad. The two of those youth were able to do a monologue from the book, because that was how I introduced my book launch. So, but the book is this year. I'm hoping in August. We're actually, and it could be virtually. I'm looking for a casting. We're going to be doing a casting call, so more information about that is forthcoming. And then the last thing is I want parents that were watching to get the book so that they are able to have these conversations with our young people.
We did share the link to the book in the comment section. We'll share it again because we have a lot of comments. So just in case you missed it.
Okay.
Yeah, we have, again, Judith, I'm going to encourage you to go and answer some of the questions, because people are super engaged and they have a lot of
questions. Awesome.
And sorry, Steve. Like I said, this conversation does not have to end today. And you could tell that this is much needed, especially in the time that we are living in right now. Please grab Judith's book. Please grab it to kind of help you with that conversation starter, but also give you insight about what's going on in our teens' mind and world right now. This is such a very creative way, Judith, for you to tell a story without making it preachy. Like, this is very engaging, and it's coming from young people. We appreciate all the work that you have done, the research that you have done to even put this book together. That's very much necessary.
Yeah, and that's one of the other things I want to say is one of the things that they'll find is that when they buy the book just doesn't share a story. It actually has chapter questions at the end. I basically shared statistics about the different topic, and then at the very end, we provided everyone with all of the resources that they can find that is related to the topics. So it's definitely a very comprehensive. Different counselors and teachers are welcome to purchase the book in bulk. And again, everything is provided in the links, correct?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and this was just a wonderful opportunity. I'm just really thankful to all of you and your staff and your support staff in terms of just giving me the platform to share something that's so timely today. And with COVID-19 globally, we are actually all going through this together. So I just want our parents that are watching, stay encouraged because we are all in this together. And I think together we're going to be able to help our children. The class of 2024, class of 2020, we're going to change they are going to change the trajectory in terms of how things look in the future. And I just want you to not be as frustrated, because they're already frustrated, and you can't have a household full of frustration. So somebody has to kind of, take take the seat.
I saw Jack smiling in the background. He was definitely appreciated that comment. I could tell that his reaction.
Yes. Well, we thank everyone for joining us. This was such a much needed and very engaging conversation. I personally did not expect, but pleasantly surprised to see that how much everyone needed to have this type of discussion. So, Judith, you did an amazing job leading this conversation. We appreciate the work that you continue to put as advocate for our community, advocate for our youth. Like, you are appreciated.
Thank you so much
for being in our Facebook group and dropping all those comments in there. And
yes, thank you.
Many comments as we had. I was able to hop over to YouTube for a little bit, those people, and
so I'll make sure that I look at both of them and make sure let me just tell them since I'm live. I will answer all of your questions. Thank you so much for just being a part of the discussion today. Know and trust that there's help out there for your child, so please do not be discouraged. And again, thank you all for watching. Thank you for having me today. And I'll be more than happy. I have, a couple others, so I'll be more than happy to come back as well.
Yes.
Please still continue to share, because if you share now, even though we're ending the broadcast, anyone you share with now, they'll come in at the beginning of the broadcast and they'll be able to catch the interview at the beginning, the entire monologue, and all of this discussion. And they'll also see all the comments that are in there too. So share. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you.
Watch it. Have a good one. Thank you, Jack.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Judith.
Thank you so much, everybody. You're welcome.